Hello, data enthusiasts, and welcome back to the Winter Data Meetup. Today, let's meet Jesus Alcocer, a Senior BI Analyst known for his experience in AI. Jesus will show us how to run powerful language models on our own devices, so no cloud is needed. He will share methods of making this happen, covering hardware and software tricks. Get ready to process robust AI directly on your local machine. Excited? Hit like button and subscribe for more talks like this. Check the video description for a link to rate Jesus' talk and give him a badge. Stick around for questions after this presentation. And please join the chat and ask Jesus directly about local large language models. Let's welcome Jesus. And Jesus, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for the great introduction. Yeah, so then let's get started. Let's see how we can bring AI closer to us, actually closer to, let's say, our local PCs, no cloud, as it was mentioned before. And let's get these large language models running locally. Then you might be wondering why should we care about local versus cloud? And probably you have heard some cases where some data leaks happen when using some public chats. So yeah, the advantage of the local is that you know that your data remains private. You don't need to send all your queries outside your home network or your company's network, and therefore basically you can get the use of the latest models, the latest technology while staying safe. So the goal for today, I want to give you some context about LLMs. Where are they situated in the AI ecosystem? And then with this talk, basically, we're going to have a systematic way on how to deploy these models locally, as mentioned, or wherever you need it. For that, we will use Podman. This is totally free and open source. Well, actually, all what we're gonna cover is free and open source. You can use it normally. And then I will show you three ways to interact with models: Ollama, Text-Generation-WebUI, and PrivateGPT. And actually, with the last one, we can chat with the docs. So yeah, it's a very interesting project. We're going from less to more. So yeah, stay till the end. We will have demo as well and Q&A. So let's get started. I was promising to give you this overview, and then when we talk about LLMs, you need to situate your thinking basically within AI, of course, but specifically with deep learning. When deep learning, think about neural networks, particularly one type, which is really great for language tasks, which are transformers. Whenever you heard about this, think immediately, yeah, again, neural networks, large language models, and actually, yeah, for example, the T of GPT is transformers, right? So no surprise here. Just want to give you this overview so that you know we're going to be situated. Then local generative AI is basically, as you can imagine, being able to run these huge models. You know, they can have billions of parameters, uh, and that requires some processing to get up and running. But then you can see, like with a regular laptop, actually the one I'm talking to you from, and using CPU, really important. You can get up to speed with them and let's say run them on a good pace, like not too slow. Of course, with a GPU will be much better, but yeah, there are people who following this procedure that we're gonna see. They are running models even in Raspberry Pis and so on, small models, but still you can use them even in those small devices. Yeah, then what do we need to start then? If this is so great, okay, what do we need? So as mentioned, we are going to get Podman installed. This is one tool equivalent to Docker. Basically, it will help us to put all the dependencies of any project actually in a package that can be, let's say, used in one computer or the other. And then basically, thanks to Podman and containers, we're going to forget of unmet dependencies, right? And this is really critical because these projects like Ollama, PrivateGPT, and so on, these are really basically evolving every day. So basically having the dependencies, they're using Python. There are many moving parts in between. So with Podman and the containers, we're gonna get a proper snapshot. And when this is working in one laptop or other computer, this will work the same in any other, right? So it's a piece that we can ship easily and forget of this typical fact of, okay, it's running on this one, but in my colleagues cannot get running for some reason that we don't know, right? So in this way, we forget about that. Also, important concept, we will talk about Docker files and Docker images or Podman images, totally the same. So with those files, we're gonna tell basically Podman or Docker how to build the image in case that is not created. Some projects we will be lucky. For example, Ollama is already providing the build image. So yeah, that one will be really easy. But then, for example, for Text-Gen or PrivateGPT, I had to build my own, right? Maybe in the future, these projects will already provide the image on its own. Yeah, but then just keep this in mind and use it when even a newer project comes to light. Yeah, and as you see, when you apply these two points, just explore, select any other project, and use the LLM as you please. So yeah, basically here with Podman, at least when running in Windows, you will be able to check the version either with UI, as you see on the right. This is Podman Desktop. And yeah, basically to get started and run some container, you can do it via terminal. For example, just writing Podman run hello world. Just hello world will be the name of the container, and that one exists actually, and it's a test container just to see that everything is fine, right? And another thing that you will need to do, because yeah, if you're not that comfortable with the terminal, just execute that second command, install Portainer, and you will be able to manage all these Podman Docker containers via UI. So nothing to get worried about here. Then yeah, I want to show you, yeah, like in the terminal, you will just need to do pod version if you want to check that you got the latest. It should be like that. And then, yeah, this is another snapshot of what happens when you are running a container, right? You see here, like they created this sample container that is just printing hello world and so on. It's just a simple, probably C or Python script inside. And yeah, here we start to experience like this portability, right, of the containers. So for sure, this run here and in your computers, this is a sample program, but the very same happens when using, let's say, cutting edge AIs like LLMs. Yeah, and then as I was mentioning before, just a reminder, we need to use this, or it's good to use this because we want a way to run LLMs and generative AI systematically, right? So you can check in Hugging Face in this link here. What is the leaderboard in LLMs at this current moment? Yeah, and the picture that you see today, probably 2-3 months, we will have another top tier models and projects, right? So yeah, just keep this in mind. Then let's say that something happens, you find a new project repository that you want to try, or even any of these three after the video. You got Podman ready, and now if there is no image, you need to make this step, right? So basically you will need the Docker file and the requirements, basically all the dependencies of the project. Yeah, and then basically deploy to Podman with that configuration file, or yeah, to Podman using Portainer. Yeah, and here in the very last section, of course, you will need to download the LLM that you want to use, right? Either with Ollama, Text-Gen UI, or PrivateGPT. There are some models powering that application, right? Yeah. So I gave you one there as example. That's Mixtral. It came out recently, and yeah, it's getting really great performance. So yeah, in a small space. So yeah, worth to try. Then going to Ollama, this is actually really simple. Only things that you need, don't be afraid of the terminal. Use Portainer to deploy it with the stack. They are providing the image, so you don't need to build any Docker image or Podman image. You don't need the Docker file. And then you just need to know two commands. Ollama list, it will show you the models that you have locally. And to run any model, you can do, for example, Ollama run Mistral, and it will download the model and let's say spin it up, right? So you can, let's say, chat directly. This is terminal based, as I was telling Ollama, but then it also spin ups an API. So if you have some project, for example, I don't know, in Python, and you need to, let's say, call LLM model, you can do it in this way, right? Put the Ollama running a model, and then use Python or from CMD. Yeah, just use localhost or whatever the home IP that you have, and yeah, and it will work in this way. And as I was telling, you can deploy with Portainer as an UI. So yeah, that part is graphical. Only in here in this project we don't have interface, right? But yeah, just don't be afraid. It's only Ollama run and the name of the model, what you need to know. So nothing complicated. And the documentation and models that are available on their official page is great. So yeah, you will not get lost. Also, you can install it without Portainer, without Docker or Podman. But the good thing with this approach is that you can select in which port you want to run it. Yeah, in my opinion, it's much more better in this way. Yeah, and as I was telling, we get a really great API. This is an example. I was asking to Mistral actually, probably about the color of the sky, and yeah, it gave me, I would say, a pretty reasonable reply via API. So yeah. Then, well, terminal maybe is not for everyone. So the next two projects that we are gonna cover, they both have UI. The first one is a great one. This is called Text-Generation-WebUI. It's using radio as an interface. And basically in here, you will need to use the Docker file to build your own image. But once you do it, you just deploy to Portainer, download the model that you want, for example, Mistral, select it on the UI, and then yeah, basically you can chat normally, like if it would be the paid version of GPT, for example. So yeah, really simple to spin up, really solid project. And yeah, I have tried out with several models, and yeah, and it works fantastically with Podman. And then even more interesting project, PrivateGPT. Why more interesting? Because here we are not gonna use only one model. This project introduces you to, let's say, a few more concepts, like what is an embedding model, what is a conversational model, right? So for example, Mistral, it's a conversational model, meaning these are the ones that are speaking our language, right? But then when we want to provide information about documents, we need to use embedding models. And what these are doing are basically transform the chunk of data into basically vector DB. So they are, let's say, getting the information from the document, push to, yeah, in a proper way to these vector DBs. The project is using by default Quadrant, if I am not mistaken. At least it was a couple of weeks ago. By default, you can change it to any other, actually. All the ones listed here are free to use, and they will stay local, of course. So yeah, so this project use Quadrant, and then as RAG is using Llama Index, right? Probably you have heard that there are a few frameworks like LangChain as well, but yeah, this one use Llama Index plus Quadrant plus the embedding model and a conversational model to basically make everything work. And the good thing is, yes, I was telling, the UI that you will get once you deploy it looks in this way. You can have a regular LLM chat without doc if you want, but you can also upload files, as you will see. Then it will take few seconds. Basically, I have tried uh, with the Bitcoin paper, which is free. Of course, anyone can see and add this one. And yeah, it was few seconds just to embed it, to transform that PDF and put the data into a vector database local, and then yeah, just query the document, right? You can ask any question that you want, and now the conversational model will have the knowledge of that document, right? And actually, I want to show you that one in the demo, as I find it really interesting. Then, yeah, a few things to remember. We need to, when talking about AI, LLM models, or yeah, classification, whatever, uh, we need to be careful and always remind about the fact that it will never be 100% accurate, the replies. So yeah, like we can use, of course, these models, these new tools, but yeah, keep always an eye on the replies. There is always a trade-off on when training these models. So um, we find them already trained, but yeah, keep in mind about the bias, about the variance. Sometimes, yeah, we have the parameters to they are called temperature, for example, and they, let's say, adjust the model behavior on how creative, meaning more, yeah, with more variance or more bias, right? But yeah, keep in mind about this when, yeah, when using these models to make important decisions. Yeah, then I wanted to show you this demonstration on PrivateGPT. So give me 1 second. I have it running here, but let me show you first. This is how it looks on Portainer. So first, this is a Portainer stack. What we are telling here, okay, use this private GPT image that we have built locally. Then use these particular ports on my laptop, the one I'm talking about, and basically store all the information locally at this path, right? So yeah, nothing strange. Container name, you can specify whatever you want. But yeah, it's as simple as this. And you see here it's running already locally, and this is the port, right? So if I go to localhost 8002, yeah, this is PrivateGPT with the Bitcoin PDF already embedded and with the selected options of QueryDoc, right? So yeah, you could try like this is a good testing question, I would say. Uh, just to without mentioning what is it about to the model. So the base language model shouldn't know what is this PDF. So it will read the information in the vector database and then tell us, right? And this is happening as we speak. You can have a look at the CPU load here and the memory. So let's see. I'm also presenting now, so maybe that's why it took a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah, definitely now presenting is slower than without, but yeah, academic paper on a web page. Yeah. Digital timestamp. So yeah, I think this sounds good. Like before, it gave me few paragraphs. Yeah, depending on the time that you run it, of course. But yeah, a couple of paragraphs explaining what it is. You can, of course, let's say, iterate on the question that you ask. But yeah, I think you can already see, let's say, some idea on how this works locally. I really recommend you to try it. Again, without presenting it would have already finished. But yeah, let's get back to the PPT for now. And yeah, and of course, next things, you can try any of these links that I place here. How to set Podman, Ollama, Text-Gen-UI, and PrivateGPT files that you need, and the step-by-step guide. You have it here, and also, some ideas that you can apply these new concepts. For example, you can use local code generation with projects like Tabby or GPT Pilot. You can also use agent swarms. So this will be a combination of different LLMs, each of them performing different tasks. So you can have a look to AutoGen project, Crew AI, yeah, and follow these very same steps that we have done, and they will work locally. Then also you have mixed models, Lava, which also provide image as well as text. And you also have code interpreter, which basically will use LLMs to interact with your operating system. Yeah, really interesting projects that you can basically replicate in this very same way. Yeah, and now I think we could go to the Q&A if that's fine.
Thank you, Jesus, for this great and inspiring talk. And I believe now everyone can run ChatGPT locally on their laptops after this great demo. And let's start our Q&A session. We've got several questions from our community members, and let's start with first of them. Have you tried LLM for any pet project?
For bad projects?
Pet project. I believe yes, because you already shown us this
Yeah,
demo. It
yeah.
can be considered as a pet project, but maybe something else.
Well, like normally I go to that Hugging Face link that it is in one of the slides, and yeah, and see from there maybe what is one of the latest models. Like for example, this Mixtral, I didn't know in the beginning of the year about it, and then yeah, I basically explored that link and saw that it was ranking every time higher, and yeah, and decided to explore it with Ollama. And yeah, Ollama I knew it before, and then thanks to that, I can, let's say, refresh the knowledge of LLMs faster. So yeah, you will use Ollama not only with one model, but with any new that is coming around, right? And the same with Text-Gen-UI or PrivateGPT. You can change the underlying model of this.
Mhm. The next question, have you seen performance degradation since you run LLMs in Docker comparing to other platforms?
To be honest, I haven't measured the difference versus running locally still, but let's say without Docker. Mm, I haven't experienced, if there is a difference, I haven't realized, at least as a user. But yeah, um, yeah, probably there has to be something as, yeah, Docker, is an extra thing that your computer is performing. But I think from my perspective as an user, again, I think it's neglectable. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
from experience only. Haven't measured, let's say, specific time of execution.
I see. Thank you. And our next question is related to data sources which can be fed into private GPT. As we
Yep.
already saw, you can feed documents and can it grab data from web pages too?
From web pages, I'm not aware that it can, but probably if we get the HTML of that website, you know,
Mm-hmm.
save as HTML, probably you can feed that to the model and it can understand. But yeah, from my last time that I checked the repo, so basically that image that I have run, it didn't have the, let's say, online capability, right? That you just put a
Mm-hmm.
link and then it's understanding. But but yeah, I think the download HTML approach should work perfectly. It's just a document like a PDF. So
So
so yeah.
some extension like web pages grabber will be needed to
Either
achieve
that
this
one,
task, right?
I'm not familiar with this one. I'm just thinking like you have a web page, right click, save as HTML, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
feed it. That should go. But then, yeah, all this is open. So if you know, let's say, some other tool that can, let's say, get a full website in, yeah, let's say in Python to TXT, something like this, then you can feed that to PrivateGPT. Yeah, it should it should get the context. the context.
And what is the limitation of data size which can be fed into local copy of
To
GPT?
PrivateGPT, I tried the biggest, like one book, like it was 200 pages, and yeah, in my opinion, I was playing around with it, and yeah, it got the context pretty well. So yeah, like a few weeks ago, I finished a book, for example, and yeah, out of curiosity, I was saying, okay, I'm gonna feed it to PrivateGPT and see if it really, you know, if it can compares with what I read. And yeah, and it worked. And if you see in the UI, you can feed more than one PDF. So yeah, like for sure there is some limitation on gigabytes, but yeah, for the test that I have made, yeah, few PDFs like regular documentation, it should totally get it. Yeah.
So then we can create a summary of the whole book, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Locally
yeah,
using
without a
private
problem.
GPT.
Yeah.
Okay. And our next question, is there an open source equivalent of Azure Hybrid plus semantic search?
To be honest, I'm not aware with that service, but well, with private GPT, for example, we are using semantic search, right? Because
Mhm.
the embedding model, basically, when it's, let's say, transforming this book PDF, uh, is of course using this semantic in its case, right? So yeah, when you ask what is this document about, like we did, it will, get that semantic meaning and then look for it on that vector database. So yeah, probably it's something similar, just uh, where if you're using something with semantic, try some of these projects that are having some vector store, right? So that should help, I think.
Okay. And thank you. Our next question, uh, you you tell that we shouldn't believe answers. Does it mean that it isn't production ready solution? How we can be sure that it works properly?
Well, we need to test always, right? Like when I said don't trust the answers, is like, these models, like any model, actually can have hallucinations, for example, right? We don't know how each and every model was trained, right? And this is applicable for these open models, same as for the paid, right? GPT, BART, etc. Uh, yeah, so in general, for any model, paid or free, I would keep this benefit of the doubt, right? Like this human double check. So uh, yeah, for example, if you want to apply this to corporate documentation, you can do it, but I think it's good to have always the, let's say, the real reference, okay, from where this was taken, right? And private GPT actually, in the end of the, when you ask something to uh, tell me about this document and so on, will tell you the references, okay? Like I have given you this reply based on this context, right? So that's really really helpful, and it's already providing this double check capability for the person, right?
Mhm. Yeah, of course, even other LLMs we cannot trust
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, but it's good, like in this project, that they are giving the reference. Okay, I have given you this reply with a conversational model based on this
Mhm.
knowledge that you gave me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. The next question is, what database does private GPT use as a knowledge base? Is it a
Yeah, it's
SQL
no, no,
database?
no. It's Quadrant database is a vector database.
Mhm.
Of course, also free and local, right? Yeah, and SQL, it wouldn't be applicable because it's columnar database. So you cannot put this, we can say, semantic information to a table database, right? You need this uh, particular store where, let's say, similar concepts are stored closer to each other, right? So that's the advantage of these vector DBs, like Quadrant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and does private GPT supports feedback loop?
What do you mean by, like, if you can iteratively ask more questions, or?
I think so.
Yeah, you can, let's say,
If we can show our satisfaction on the answer and train
well,
it to answer correctly.
you can, let's say, guide it. Okay, I meant this other stuff. Yeah, so you can, over a reply, you can tell it to, let's say, iterate on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The next question, is it possible to create a pool of APIs with private GPT that will support millions of requests per second and use same database?
1 second, can you repeat that?
Is it
Regarding.
possible to create a pool of APIs
Mhm.
with private GPT that will support millions of requests per second and use same database? I think the question is that if we can create several images of private GPT and
Yes.
use some load balancer
Yes. Yeah. You
between
can.
to
Yeah.
increase the performance of
Yeah. Regarding the how
this
many
solution
output.
to serve
Yeah. Yeah.
many requests.
Regarding, how many throughput, it will depend on the where you are running it. Uh, but then regarding having few uh, connection points is totally possible, and actually with uh, when you run it with Docker or Portainer, you can use same volumes. So meaning you can connect to the same vector database, but from different ports, right? So you can route, yeah, in these ways, right? So you can have even two separate instances of private GPT running on the same machine, one to one port, one with the other, and then, yeah, route as your service needs, basically. Yeah, can be with same vector store or different ones, depending on the use case. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, and the next question, is it possible to target private GPT to frequently changing dataset and expect fresh data in responses?
Well, you can upload as many PDFs and documents as you want. The only thing, I don't know how to do that programmatically or if it's possible, but for sure on the UI, you can, let's say, remove some context, add new context. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And the question was like to feed the weather data or currency rates, something very frequently changing.
Okay. Uh, well, it would need, let's say, some programmatical version. I'm not sure if this is the project for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Probably this database will be the bottleneck because it will require some time to update the
Yeah.
dataset, right?
hmm
Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you found this session inspiring. And thank you very much, Jesus, for coming. And we
Thank you.
couldn't do this without you. In the video
Thank you.
description below, you will find the link to the page where you can provide feedback on this talk and give Jesus a badge and rate his session. Your feedback helps us improve future events and recognize the hard work of our speakers, like Jesus. Additionally, if you'd like to revisit it, you can download the presentation on the talk page and check video description for the link. Once again, thank you all for your participation, engagement, and support. We look forward to seeing you at our next sessions. Goodbye for now and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Jesus. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.